My mother-in-law provided her son's apartment for entertaining mistresses, and the moment I learned about it, my world turned upside down, leaving me in a whirlwind of betrayal, intrigue, and madness, where every new secret promised to shatter everything I held sacred. My name is Isabella, and I never thought that my life could take such a cruel turn. 4 years ago, I married James, a man I believed to be the embodiment of a dream, charming, intelligent, always ready to support and protect. But after the birth of our son Oliver, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of endless worries and responsibilities. Cooking, cleaning, and sleepless nights when little Oliver suffered from teething. In this chaos, I lost not only time for myself, but also my former, well-cared-for beauty. My soul ached from exhaustion, and the mirror reflected a stranger with tired eyes and beaten features. Along with that, my life was invaded by my mother-in-law, Margaret, a woman with an iron will and an undeniable sense of superiority. From the very first days, she imposed her rules, endlessly rearranging things in our home as if trying to prove that only she was capable of creating true comfort. However, the real pain was hidden behind her double life. Margaret didn't just help. She used the apartment she provided as a means of entertainment. Her son, my James, at her insistence, allowed her to hold secret parties with her mistresses there. Seeing my own family falling apart before my eyes was unbearable. Every time she entered, I felt as though I was losing a piece of myself, and her cold words and mockery only added poison to my wounds. One day, when Margaret packed her things for a week-long trip, she left me the keys to the apartment with an order. "Isabella, please don't forget to feed my cat, but strictly before 10 in the morning." No deviations. I couldn't understand the logic behind such a requirement, but I tried to obey, fearing new conflicts. On that ill-fated day, I left Margaret's apartment, heading home, only to soon discover a terrible mistake. My own keys had been left in her apartment. With no other option, I had to go back. My heart raced, my hands trembled, and my thoughts raced. What awaited me there? Opening the door, I stepped into the dim corridor. The silence was broken only by the soft purring of a cat, whose gaze seemed full of mystery. But then the events took an unexpected turn. From the steamy shower room emerged a stranger, barely covered by a towel, as if she had accidentally run out of sleep. My nerves reached their limit, and my mind refused to accept the reality. With trembling steps, I walked into the bedroom, hoping to find some explanation. But instead, I was met with a shocking sight. James, my husband, lay on the bed in nothing but his old underwear. His gaze, full of indifference and even malicious delight, met mine, and he coldly stated, "Isabella, you have long since stopped giving me what I need. Look at yourself. You look like a cow." Those words, ruthlessly tearing apart the remnants of my soul, were the final straw that broke my capacity for suffering. At that moment, I realized that everything that once seemed sacred, our family, our dreams, even little Oliver, was under threat of complete destruction. I felt how pain, resentment, and bitterness mixed together, making my heart contract with unending agony. Margaret, the woman who was supposed to be a support, turned out to be a source of ruin, turning our home into an arena for her shameless indulgences and secret rendezvous with mistresses. Her duplicity was boundless. On one hand, she tried to control every aspect of our lives, and on the other, she used the apartment for her fleeting pleasures. Every remark, every movement seemed like a deliberate blow to my dignity. In that moment, I made a fateful decision to sever the ties binding me to this torturous past. Divorce became inevitable, and with it, a painful freedom that I embraced in order to start over, albeit with wounds that might never fully heal. Thus began my story, a story of pain, betrayal, and liberation, where every detail, every echo was steeped in the bitterness of loss and the desire for a new life. I knew that harsh trials awaited me ahead, but the longing to regain control over my destiny forced me to keep moving, even through the darkest moments. Since that fateful day, my life has turned into an endless tapestry of pain, where every new dawn reminded me of a broken heart and shattered dreams. I, Isabella, as if imprisoned by my own memories, felt the cold grip of loneliness tightening around my heart. Every minute spent in the empty apartment reminded me of how a once bright and joyful life had turned into a series of agonizing days and sleepless nights. After that doomed morning, when I was confronted with a merciless reality, a storm of emotions raged within me. I remembered those moments when, with Alexander, my husband at that time, we built our dreams of a happy family. His eyes, full of promises and hope, seemed to me a reflection of the future I so longed for. But now, instead of the vow of love, I heard the cold words that cut me like a knife. You have long since stopped giving me what I need. Look at yourself. You look like a cow. Those words echoed in my head repeatedly, making me tremble with pain and shame. I tried to find strength within myself, drowning in endless memories of how things used to be. But how could I forget when every morning I faced not only a new day, but also the inevitable feeling of loss? In the silence of the night, when little Oliver finally fell asleep, I sat by the window, gazing at the shimmering streetlights, and tried to understand where the path we once walked together had led. Images of happy days were replaced by nightmares. The laughter that once warmed our souls now turned into a quiet whisper of betrayal, and the home that once reigned with love and warmth had become an arena for alien amusements and resentments. With each passing day, the pain grew like an unyielding avenger, penetrating deep into my heart. I sought solace in the little things, a chance encounter with a kind neighbor, a cup of strong coffee at dawn, the soft rustle of the wind playing with autumn leaves. Yet nothing could drown out the echo of betrayal that left an unhealed wound in my soul. I felt that unless I confronted it, my life would forever remain gray and joyless. Amid this internal struggle, I began to realize that the past could not be changed, and the future was nothing more than a hazy reflection of our hopes. I started searching within myself. Where had I allowed this fateful turning point? How could I have believed in the illusion of happiness that everyone around me imposed on me? I recalled the moments when Margaret, my mother-in-law, with her endless control and relentless criticism, destroyed everything I had tried to build. Her shameless actions, her double standards, when she left the apartment for her secret rendezvous, turned the home into a place where moral rules seemed like empty words. Was I really supposed to accept that she was allowed everything, while I was forced only to obey? One day, sitting on the cold floor, I struggled to gather the fragments of my shattered soul when I suddenly realized something had to change. The decision did not come suddenly like a bolt from the blue, but had been brewing for years, through tears and sleepless nights. I remembered how I once dreamed of freedom and independence, how I longed to be not a victim of circumstances, but a strong woman capable of overcoming any trial. Inside me, a quiet yet unyielding desire began to grow, a desire to regain control over my life. That very night, as the moonlight filtered through the curtains, I quietly whispered to myself, "Enough." It was not just a word, it was a cry of the soul, a call pointing the way to a new life. I realized that it was time to break the chains of the past, to cast off the shackles that had been imposed on me all these years. I had to start anew, with a clean slate, even if the price of freedom turned out to be unbearably high. Yet thoughts of the future mixed with the bitterness of the present. The reflection in the mirror revealed not only a worn body, but also a woman who had withstood fate's blows without being completely broken. I understood that on this difficult path, new trials awaited me, and that the pain lodged in my heart would return from time to time like an unwelcome guest. However, now I was ready to face them head-on, with a determination and strength I had never known before. Thus began my internal battle, a struggle for the right to happiness, for the right to be myself, despite all the blows of fate. I knew that a difficult road lay ahead, but I could no longer allow myself to remain a hostage to others' ambitions and betrayals. With that thought, I decided, tomorrow I will begin a new life and leave the past behind once and for all. The night draped the city in a dark veil, and I, Isabella, sat in the quiet of my small apartment, trying to sort out my own feelings. Every echo of the past day resonated in my soul like a bitter reminder that betrayal and pain can corrode even the strongest bonds. I couldn't believe that the woman I once considered the guardian of our family's comfort, Margaret, had so mercilessly destroyed everything dear to me. Yet that blow of fate made me wonder. Perhaps in this treacherous chaos there lies a chance for rebirth. Recalling how I once dreamed of a happy family with James, how his eyes once shone with love and hope, I felt that my life no longer belonged to me. His cold words, spoken without a trace of remorse, had shattered not only my heart, but also the illusion that I could ever be worthy of his love. In that moment, as I sat in the darkness, a flash of understanding burst through the thick curtain of tears. Right here, at the bottom of this abyss, lay the seed of a new life. For pain, paradoxically, can become a powerful catalyst for change. I decided that I would no longer live imprisoned by the mistakes and humiliations of others. Memories of Margaret, whose actions turned our home into an arena for secret indulgences, painfully reminded me that it was time to break the chains of the past. I recalled all my dreams of freedom, every morning when, upon rising, I felt within me the strength to smile at the world again. That was the moment I realized the break with the old is not an end, but the beginning of a new life. I could no longer allow myself to suffer, no longer be a victim of circumstances. I began gathering the shards of myself, trying to stitch together something new, strong, and radiant. Every minute of solitude, every sleepless night filled with tears and memories, gradually transformed into a lesson, into a source of strength. In this labyrinth of pain, I started searching for the path back to myself, and each new morning brought small victories. I learned to rejoice in the little things, to find solace in the soft rustle of the wind outside my window, in the smile of a passing stranger on the street. The turning point came when I realized that true rebirth begins with forgiveness, not only of others but also of oneself. I learned to accept my weaknesses, my appearance altered by childbirth and life's hardships, as a sign that I was alive, that I had fought, and that I could triumph. Every wound inflicted by betrayal became a lesson, and every word spoken with cruelty, fuel for my inner fire. That night, under the shimmering light of the moon, I made a decision that would turn my life completely upside down. I would no longer allow those who had caused me pain to dictate the terms of my existence. In my heart, a firm belief took root. I would become strong not despite everything, but precisely because of everything I had endured. Let the past remain behind as an echo of lost days and mistakes, while ahead lay a new, luminous path where I could rediscover my true self. This night became a symbol of my rebirth, a symbol that even in the darkest abyss one can find a ray of light. Now, as the first rays of dawn began to pierce through the curtains, I felt a new life stirring in my chest, ready to face all storms. And though challenges still awaited me on my journey, I already knew I am capable of so much more. A new dawn brought not only light, but also the long-awaited realization. It was finally time to confront those who had so long and relentlessly destroyed my existence. Every morning I woke with the thought that I should no longer live imprisoned by resentment and betrayal. Deep within, an unyielding determination was born, a determination that grew with each blow of fate, like a seed pushing through the cracks of old tiles in an abandoned corridor. Looking back, I understood that everything that had happened was an inevitable lesson, a lesson I was no longer willing to pay for with my life. My thoughts invariably returned to those agonizing moments when Margaret, that cruel mistress of others' pleasures, shamelessly turned the home that was meant to be a sanctuary of warmth and comfort into a stage for her debauchery. Not only the apartment, but also the souls of everyone who had tried to find joy there were caught in the snare of her greed and selfishness. One day, deciding that I could no longer endure this pain, I set out to meet her. On the way, I thought about the strength it had taken to overcome the fear of facing someone who had once been a symbol of the family hearth for me. But now, with each step taken with difficulty and resolve, I could no longer allow the past to dictate the terms of my future. I met Margaret in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city, where the soft glow of the lamps created an atmosphere of old secrets and unsolved mysteries. Her gaze, once so confident and commanding, now mixed with a hint of surprise as I approached her table. In that moment, a whirlwind of emotions surged within me, from anger to quiet sadness, from resentment to the bitterness of loss. "Margaret," I began softly but firmly, "I have come to speak with you not as your victim, but as a woman who has found the strength to tell the truth." For a moment, something resembling regret flickered in her eyes, only to be quickly masked by a cold indifference, as if she had long become accustomed to causing pain with her words. I told her how every one of her appearances in our home, every minor interference, transformed our sanctuary into an arena for alien pleasures and betrayal. I spoke of those nights when tears streamed down my cheeks, when every word from Alexander, words that cut like accusations, tore me apart. I recalled how his ruthless remark, "You look like a cow," had left a deep wound in me that no amount of time or attempts to reclaim my former life could heal. For a brief moment, Margaret's eyes softened, and I saw a shadow of understanding that I would no longer live under the sway of her domineering manipulations. But then, as if awakening from a sweet dream, she reverted to her habitual behavior. "Isabella, dear, don't you understand that everyone has their own needs, that you can't be perfect in everything?" Her words sounded as if she were trying to shift the blame for all our misfortunes onto me, as if my appearance and weary expression were the causes of her actions and the fate of our entire family. Something inside me broke. In that moment, I realized I could no longer accept the lie that had been hidden behind her mask of concern for so long. I stood up, and my voice, trembling from the suffering I had endured, grew firmer. "No, Margaret. Your excuses no longer make any sense. Your indulgences, your immoral entertainments. Everything has destroyed not only my world, but also the world that once formed our family's heart." My words echoed in the small room of the cafe, and at that moment I felt the past finally giving way to the new. It was not merely a conversation, it was a farewell to the bonds that had long held my soul captive. I saw a flicker of regret in Margaret's eyes, but then her familiar, harsh tone returned. "But Isabella, we all have our needs, and your ex-husband will always be the man who likes—" At that point, my words fell silent, for I realized there was no longer any room for truth in her heart. I left the cafe, leaving behind not only Margaret, but also the entire old life that had so painfully drained my strength. The wind, racing along the deserted streets, seemed to embrace me with its coolness, granting me a sense of liberation. I felt every word spoken that fateful evening was a stone laid in the foundation of my new self, a foundation that would no longer be shaken by the ambitions of others or the betrayals of those close to me. From that day on, I began building my new life, not one built on others' expectations and false promises, but a life in which I became the architect of my own destiny. Every moment of solitude was filled with reflections on what it meant to be free, what it meant to love oneself and accept one's fate, whatever it might be. I learned to listen to my heart, to find the strength for new beginnings, even as bitter memories and relentless reproaches from the past lingered behind me. This turning point, when I resolved to speak the truth, became the starting point of my inner rebirth. I understood that true liberation begins with saying goodbye to those who are not worthy of your love and trust. And now, when I looked in the mirror, I saw not only a worn reflection, but also a strong, determined woman, ready to face the future with an open heart and a clear mind. Thus, I continued forward, leaving behind the shadow of the past, the pain that had once shackled my soul. And though challenges still awaited me on the road ahead, I was ready to face them, for every new day gave me the chance to believe in the light once more, a light that, even in the darkest corners of the soul, can ignite into a bright flame of hope. A new day arrived quietly, like a gentle awakening after a long winter. I, Isabella, woke earlier than usual, feeling the rays of the morning sun piercing through the curtains, bringing warmth and the promise of change. In those moments, I sensed that even after the harshest storms, there comes a time when the soul begins to heal. With quiet determination, I rose, each movement a reminder that life goes on despite everything. Looking in the mirror, I saw not only the worn reflection of a woman who had endured unthinkable betrayals, but also one who was beginning to learn to love herself again. The scars left by pain and hurt had now become symbols of endurance and courage, for every trial had tempered me, making me stronger. I remembered the words spoken in those fateful moments. "You have long since stopped giving me what I need," they had echoed from the past, but now I knew. My worth is defined not by others' expectations, but by my own strength. Little Oliver, smiling with his innocent gaze, became a symbol of a new life for me. His childlike laughter, clear and pure, reminded me that joy can emerge even in the darkest corners of the soul. I decided that I would raise him in a world ruled by love and respect, not by lies and betrayal. In his eyes, I saw the reflection of a future where every pain turns into a lesson and every tear becomes a drop of light. To find peace, I began seeking solace in the little things: walks in the park, meetings with old friends, small pleasures that once seemed insignificant. On one such day, I met my longtime friend, Elizabeth, who came to me with a cup of fragrant tea and warm embraces. Her support became a bright beacon, helping me to see that the world around was still full of kindness and sincerity. Elizabeth spoke of her own experiences, of how, having endured her trials, she found the strength to believe in a better tomorrow. Her words, filled with wisdom and tenderness, made me understand that there is no need to fear change. Sometimes it is precisely in moments when it seems that life is falling apart that the path to a new beginning is revealed. In her stories, I heard echoes of the thoughts that had long been fermenting in my heart. It was time to let go of old resentments, to forgive myself for the mistakes made, and to boldly step towards a bright future. Step by step, I began rebuilding my life. I learned to plan each day, finding time not only for caring for my little one and my home, but also for myself. In those moments of solitude, I allowed myself to dream, to read books, to write diary entries in which all the pain mingled with hope was poured out. Each page of my diary became a witness to change, a testament to the fact that I was finding within myself the strength to transform. But the most important thing happened unexpectedly. One evening, returning home after a long walk, I heard a quiet knock at the door. Opening it, I saw Michael, an old acquaintance I had almost forgotten, standing on the threshold. His eyes were full of understanding and warmth, and his smile, genuine and bright, seemed to promise a new chapter in my life. He did not ask unnecessary questions, nor did he remind me of the past. Instead, Michael offered me support, a listening ear, and perhaps a new hope that love can ignite even after the most terrible trials. Our meetings became a small salvation for me, a quiet refuge from the memories of pain. Michael listened to me, shared in my fears, and most importantly made me understand that I deserve happiness, that every wound of mine can heal if given time and care. In his presence, I felt that life was gradually returning its colors to me, that the past, no matter how dark it was yielding to the light of the present. With each day, I learned more to accept myself and my new reality. I began to understand that all those terrible moments were merely chapters in the long book of my life, and that ahead lay new pages filled with joy, love, and personal victories. Yes, the past had left scars, but they served as reminders that I had withstood the storm and grown stronger. Thus, step by step, I began to believe in the future. I started spending more time with Oliver, enjoying his smiles and first words, his first steps. Together we rediscovered the world, finding joy in simple things, in the sunbeams piercing through the leaves of trees, in the soft rustle of the wind, in the warmth of our home. Every morning now began not with tears, but with gratitude for having endured the pain and finding within myself the strength to move forward. And so, as the evening descended upon the city and the sunset painted the sky with brilliant colors, I sat by the window watching the last glimmers of the day fade away. In my heart, I felt a newfound resolve, one that was unfamiliar yet steadfast, as if the universe itself were blessing my path. I knew that many trials still lay ahead, but I was ready to face them. For even in the darkest night there are always stars, and I had decided to be one of them, shining regardless of the storms, regardless of past wounds. My story continues, and with every new day I feel increasingly sure that true happiness is found not in the past, but in the way we learn to accept and love ourselves. Let the roads be thorny. I have chosen to walk my own path, confident that love, trust, and faith in myself will help me build a new life, full of light and hope. With the first rays of a new morning, I felt my soul filling with the freshness of change. I, Isabella, could no longer believe that I had once been someone who succumbed to others' dictates and allowed fate to control every step I took. But now, on the threshold of a new life, I felt that every pain endured, every betrayal experienced, had become a stepping stone toward my rebirth. During this period of transformation, I began meeting with friends who reminded me that the world was not confined solely to the bitterness of the past. Among them was my old friend Elizabeth, and more recently I met Lucas, a man whose sincerity and care filled me with hope for a bright future. My gatherings with them became not just a refuge, but an opportunity to view life from a new angle, to understand that happiness is possible even after the most severe trials. At the same time, I began to engage in creative pursuits. I spent long evenings writing, pouring my thoughts and emotions onto paper as if to spill out my pain, fear, and gradually, the joy of recognizing my own worth. Every line became a reflection of my inner world, and I could feel a new Isabella emerging within, strong, independent, and determined never again to let anyone control her life. One day, while strolling along the waterfront, I unexpectedly encountered Margaret. That meeting proved to be a true test for me. Standing opposite her, I saw not only the reflection of the woman who once ruled our home, and whose actions had shattered my family, but also a person who, perhaps, too, carried traces of loss and delusion. However, the past would not leave me in peace, and a desire to finally break all the old bonds took root in my heart. "Margaret," I said, my voice steady and calm, "I have come not to dwell on old grievances, but to say that my life now belongs to me. I will no longer submit to your rules and interference, and the past will no longer dictate my future." For a moment, her gaze softened, but then her cold indifference returned. In that moment, I felt the invisible line between the past and the future dissolve completely. I no longer wished to argue, explain, or prove my right. My inner peace and confidence were the most important proof that I had overcome all the blows of fate. Gradually, I learned to accept and love myself as I am. I started attending painting classes, where each brushstroke allowed me to express the unspoken words, bringing vibrant colors of emotion to life on the canvas. These new pursuits brought joy and inspiration, and meeting like-minded people bolstered my confidence that the world is full of opportunities for change. Lucas became not just a friend, but a mirror reflecting my strengths and showing me that life can be different, bright, and filled with love. His attention and sincerity served as a kind of remedy, washing away the remnants of old wounds. Together, we discovered small joys, trips out of town, late-night conversations under a starry sky, moments when it felt as though the entire world merged in a harmonious chorus of happiness and freedom. Yet, it wasn't only the external changes that marked the beginning of my rebirth. Deep within, I was learning to forgive, not only Margaret, whose image had once stirred pain and anger in me, but also myself for all those years when I allowed circumstances to control my destiny. Forgiveness became the key to inner peace, a liberation from the chains forged by the past. I realized that to move forward, I needed to forgive and let go, making space for new dreams and hopes. Every day I reminded myself that my life was my own responsibility, not a reflection of others' ambitions and mistakes. Now the mirror brought not tears of despair, but a smile of understanding. I had grown stronger, wiser, and every new chapter of my life was being written by me. My story was not a fairy tale, but it had become a lesson that taught me to believe in myself, in my abilities, and in the possibility of happiness if I am not afraid to change. Step by step, I began rebuilding my future, leaving behind the pain that once seemed insurmountable. These new beginnings gave me strength, and with each passing day, I felt the world around me transforming along with me. And although many trials still lay ahead, I knew that a light burned in my heart, one that would never go out. The evening arrived as the sunset painted the sky in bright, almost surreal hues, and I, Isabella, felt the past and future merge into one. It was a moment when I realized that every pain, every betrayal, every shattered remnant of my dreaming soul had served as a guiding thread toward my true rebirth. All the trials I had endured were not in vain. They made me who I am now, strong, wise, and capable of loving myself completely. Over the years, I learned to let go of old resentments and to forgive, not for someone else's sake, but for my own, so that I could attain inner peace and a light that no one could ever extinguish. Reflecting on all my pains, I understood that even the deepest wounds can heal if given time and warmth. This process was as arduous as any journey to freedom, but it opened my eyes to the fact that true strength comes when you learn to love yourself and embrace every part of your story. There was no longer any room in my life for old illusions and false hopes. Together with Lucas, whose sincerity and care became a symbol of a new era for me, I began to rebuild my future. We spent long evenings discussing dreams and plans, and every conversation with him was like a promise of a bright future. His presence reminded me that love can be quiet and calm, yet deep and genuine. He taught me to trust myself and believe in the miracles that occur when you are not afraid of change. Over time, I also rekindled connections with those who had always been by my side. My longtime friend Elizabeth, and the dear ones who never judged me for my past, but rather supported and inspired me toward new achievements. Together, we organized small gatherings where laughter and warm memories filled the room like a comforting hymn of life. These moments gave me the strength to move forward and reminded me that even after the darkest night, dawn always comes. I began to devote more time to my creativity. Painting became my way of expressing the full spectrum of my emotions. Every brush stroke, every drop of paint on the canvas helped me unleash the feelings I had long hidden inside. My work gradually gained recognition in the local community, and I was amazed to discover that through art, one can not only heal one's own soul, but also inspire others to overcome life's hardships. Despite all the trials, my love for little Oliver remained unchanged. His childlike laughter, his first steps, his first words, all of it became an invaluable source of joy for me. I understood that despite all the losses and pain, life goes on, and every minute holds the possibility of happiness. Oliver taught me to view the world differently, with curiosity, tenderness, and faith that each new day can bring something beautiful. I remembered the days when the apartment, once turned into an arena for foreign indulgences and immoral escapades, had become a place of pain and disappointment. But now I looked at that space from a different perspective, as a reminder of what I had to go through to find my inner freedom. Margaret, who had held us captive with her rules for so long, was now just an echo of the past, a lesson I had learned and would never allow to repeat itself. Sometimes in the silence of the evening, sitting by the window, I found myself thinking that life is a complex kaleidoscope of moments, where joy turns to sorrow and losses give way to new beginnings. In every reflection in the window, I saw not just a worn face, but a woman who had walked through fire and water, emerging victorious from the darkest trials. I had become a symbol that even after the most painful rupture, even after words that tore the heart apart, you can find the strength for a fresh start. My relationship with Lucas grew gradually, and each new day brought small joys for which I was infinitely grateful. Together, we dreamed of a future where love and mutual respect would be the cornerstones of our new life. Our meetings became a quiet celebration where we learned to listen and support each other, creating harmony where chaos once reigned. In that moment, when I closed my eyes and allowed memories to carry me back to the past, I realized my story is not just one of pain and betrayal. It is a story of rebirth, of a strength that can overcome any hardship. Every step, every tear, every smile on my face was proof that life is full of wonders if you learn to cherish its moments. I found within myself the courage to forgive and let go of everything that once hurt me, and to believe in a bright future. My heart, once shattered and scarred, now beat steadily and confidently, ready to give and receive love from those around me. Each new day was like a blank page on which I could write a new chapter of my life, a chapter filled with light, hope, and an unwavering faith in the best that is yet to come. And as I looked out the window, I saw the first star emerging on the horizon, silently promising that even in the deepest night, the light of hope never fades. That star became a symbol for me, a symbol that within each of us lies the power to transform, no matter what. My story did not end in a finale of sorrow, but in a new beginning, a new path that I now walked boldly, knowing that the future belongs to those who are not afraid to love, to believe, and to dream. Thus, this chapter of my life came to a close, and a new one began, filled with love, creativity, and inner harmony. I realized that every hardship is a lesson, and every loss an opportunity to gain something greater. My life, like a painting rendered in vibrant strokes of emotion, now shone in all the colors of the rainbow, and a whole world of new hopes and achievements awaited me. The light of hope will always burn in my heart, and I look confidently toward the future, ready to embrace whatever it may bring. For I know that true strength and beauty are born from pain and perseverance. And now my soul sings, reflecting the endless harmony and joy I have found within myself, despite all the trials of the past.